I played a significant role in helping my brother leave his fiancée at the altar, a decision that stemmed from a shocking turn of events involving our mother. My brother is 34, I'm 32, and we have an older brother who's 28. Our brother Sam, who is the middle sibling, was set to marry his bride when we discovered that our mother had invited herself to the wedding. This situation was particularly tense since our family has a complicated history, especially with our mother. Our parents divorced when I was very young, and the reason behind it was our mother's extreme jealousy. In the beginning, my dad tried to put up with it, but things escalated when she made hurtful comments about my desire to be like his wife. That pushed him over the edge. After their divorce, our mother quickly moved on with a guy who had 2 kids, and they shared custody for a while. However, everything got worse when my dad remarried. Our mother became uncontrollably angry, insulting his new wife and accusing him of infidelity during their marriage. Since I was a child, I've always felt closer to my brothers and my dad than to her because she was really mean to me. A particularly tragic event occurred when my stepmom died in a bad car accident. It was a heartbreaking time for all of us, and my dad decided to call our mother that night to let her know he would be picking us up earlier for the funeral. Instead of showing empathy, she chose to take us on a celebratory trip, claiming it was to celebrate something. This was the happiest we had seen her, but when we realized the gravity of the situation and began to cry, she coldly told us that only worthless people cry for wise, whatever that means. Naturally, everything blew up after that incident. My dad sought full custody of us, allowing her visitation, but their relationship remained toxic. He always kept the lines of communication open and even paid for us to visit her when she moved away. However, things remained strained, and once we turned 18, we started to distance ourselves from her. The last time we saw her was at my high school graduation. She made it a point to publicly label us as ungrateful kids, and her husband would insult us as well. We haven't spoken to her since that day. Fast forward to 3 years ago, Sam started dating his then fiancée. Throughout their relationship, she learned about our past and our reasons for going no contact with our mother. Despite hearing our stories, she viewed our feelings as dramatic, which led to many issues between them. But as they planned their wedding, she seemed to let go of her insistence that they reconcile with our mother. Then came the wedding day. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until we arrived at the church. Imagine our shock when we saw our mother, her husband, and his 2 kids sitting right at the front. I panicked and immediately called my brothers. Sam thought that maybe she somehow found out about the wedding and crashed it, so he called his fiancée to warn her about the potential drama. To our dismay, she told him that it was fine since she had invited them. After that, Sam asked me to go fetch him while our oldest brother stayed at the church to handle things. We went home and locked ourselves away, refusing to see anyone, even when his fiancée's family and friends arrived to try and talk to him. Our mother's husband even called and angrily stated that he always knew we were worthless. Now that everything has settled, the majority of Sam's friends and most of our family are on his side. Even our dad's ex-in-laws threatened to sue him for the money they contributed to the wedding if he didn't go through with it, but Sam made it clear he would rather pay them back than marry someone who betrayed him. Our nuclear family, consisting of my dad and my brothers, fully supports Sam in his decision. However, the backlash from the situation has been intense. Some people have commented on the situation, with no sign of remorse from our mother. In fact, she texted our oldest brother, Joe, claiming that it would be a good wedding gift for Sam to forgive her since she values family. My dad had bought them a house as a wedding gift, but Sam is the only one on the deed. While she had keys for when they moved in together, they changed the locks and are now removing all of Sam's belongings from her apartment this week. We're not worried about any legal challenges, but we will consult a lawyer just in case. We've heard that our mother and her family are still in town, but since we're staying at our childhood home for a few days, we're not concerned about it. My dad is understandably sad about Sam's heartbreak, but is trying his best to cheer him up, along with my boyfriend and sister-in-law. I had to deactivate my social media accounts because I was bombarded with negative comments and messages from people who didn't understand the situation. Luckily, the more people learned about why Sam walked away, the less negativity we received. While I do feel sorry that our mother felt humiliated, my brother's well-being and happiness come first. As for the aftermath at the church, I asked Joe about it, and he confirmed that it unfolded just as I had expected. He stood up in front of everyone and announced that Sam wasn't coming. He told them all to please go home, and that all the gifts that had been delivered to our side of the family would be returned as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Sam's ex was still outside the church when someone from her family broke the news to her. She didn't take it well. She started screaming and crying, calling out for Sam over and over. My mom tried to talk to Joe, but he didn't even look at her. When she realized she couldn't get a reaction from him, she became even more upset, crying loudly and saying how horrible we all were to her. A few people from her side started to console her, which was just her usual way of getting attention. But Joe and his wife didn't care at all. When they stepped out of the church, the ex was right there waiting for them, demanding to see Sam. Joe firmly told her no, and then she asked what they should do about the party they had planned. Joe said that if she didn't want the venue, he would arrange to have the food donated to the staff there so it wouldn't go to waste. The atmosphere was chaotic, with everyone yelling, but Joe remained calm, not wanting to give Mom any satisfaction from the drama. Afterward, Joe and his wife returned home after making stops at the supermarket and some fast food places. It felt like we were kids again, all cozied up inside, along with 2 more family members. We asked Sam if he wanted those extra family members there, and he said he did. We had all taken time off to spend together after the wedding anyway, so it was no trouble at all. When the ex finally came to the gate, we knew she was no longer going to use the venue. My ex called the party planners with Sam's information, told them to take the food, and even sent some tips for their help. It seemed like we were also getting back all the alcohol that my dad had paid for, which meant we would have quite a party to finish off the year. Some people reached out to me asking why our dad ever married our mom. The truth is, he genuinely loved her and thought she was the nicest person in the world. Sadly, it turned out she wasn't. She had this way of pretending to be nice, probably because no one else would marry her otherwise. Dad thought about staying with her until we were all grown up, but she kept getting worse. There were times she would act nice, and he believed she was changing, only for her to revert back to her old ways. As for my ex, she probably thinks Mom is a good person who has ungrateful children. She is really charming and can be funny, but that doesn't excuse her behavior. The only person Sam explained the situation to was his boss, who was at the church. His boss was understanding and pretty shocked about what our mom had put us through, especially since we all seemed like fairly happy, well-adjusted people. Dad acknowledged that it was a shock for all of us, and he said we could stay home as long as we needed to. Sam is moving back home for now. I showed my family the social media post, and they were touched by the kindness being shown, but Sam wants everyone to know that his ex wasn't showing any signs of concerning behavior. He really thought she understood his background. He agreed to talk to her and her parents today, but only if it was at our house with us there to support him. So, it's going to be an interesting visit. As for my brother's situation, there's more to share. Sam lost some money, but it won't really affect him. His ex's parents paid for her fancy dress, an extravagant cake, and part of their honeymoon. While she wasn't the most loved member of the family, we truly believed she loved Sam. We have cut off contact with Mom's side of the family. Joe used to have some connection with Grandma, but once he got married, he decided to cut her off too after another family drama. Mom had this strange belief that it wasn't right for us to have one-on-one time with Dad, like daddy-daughter days or outings. The thing is, there were also days like that with Joe and Sam. Dad always made an effort to spend quality time with each of us, both individually and as a group. Mom just has some issues. We don't really talk about our childhood much, so whenever someone asks about our parents, the typical answer is just that it's me, my siblings, and our dad. Most people assume that Mom has passed away, which helps us avoid questions about why we don't speak to her anymore. Mom's stepchildren are both guys in their early 30s. Dad is now with a long-term girlfriend, and we all really like her. She has been focused on her own affairs for the past few days, but now she's made it clear that we have her full support. I was curious about why Sam decided to go to the meeting, especially since he hadn't spoken to her recently. It turns out that she sent videos and photos of all his belongings scattered on the floor to his best friend Tom. She warned Tom that Sam either needed to talk to her or she would destroy everything he owned. Tom then visited Sam to fill him in on the situation, and they both agreed that they needed access to the flat before any more chaos ensued. So, Tom, Joe, a couple of cousins, and my boyfriend all went over to grab Sam's clothes, electronics, and any important paperwork. Sam didn't care about the rest of the stuff and even joked about them being the fastest moving crew he knew. The meeting itself was absurd. She showed up with her parents and sisters, trying to talk to Sam privately, but when he refused, she just started speaking. Not once did she say she was sorry. Instead, she claimed that it wasn't her fault, we didn't understand the importance of a real family and that we had been raised to despise mothers. She insisted her only goal was for Sam to learn to value mothers because she feared he would take her children away, as that was what he was taught to do. Sam stayed quiet until she accused his family of being like a cult and called him a terrible father while staring at my dad. This struck a nerve for all of us, and we don't tolerate insults directed at our dad. Sam finally lost it, unleashing all the pent-up anger he had towards her. He called her a hateful liar and expressed his disgust for ever having touched her, even if it was just a hand. He was thankful that I am always early to everything because it meant he had time to clear his head. He pointed out that her staying with a cheating husband, just like her mother did, was not something to brag about. He accused her of pretending to be nice just to get him to marry her, and he listed all the minor issues he had overlooked because he genuinely loved her, or at least the person he thought she was. Sam made it clear that he would never forgive her for the pain she caused his siblings, though he didn't hate her. In his words, hating her would mean he had to waste energy thinking about her, and he wasn't about to do that. He told her she had ample time to fix things and that since she plays the victim, he would be the one to explain why he didn't show up to the meeting. It was a harsh, yet cathartic moment for Sam. Her parents were silent, but their faces were very red from embarrassment. She was crying, and her sisters tried to defend her and their parents' relationship, expecting my family to jump in and argue, but we stayed quiet. Then, Sam told his ex that she could sue him if she wanted, but if she did, he would expose all the dirt about her family to the world. He doubted she really wanted that. Surprisingly, her dad suggested that Sam should try to make amends and marry his ex since time was running out for them and all families fight. I couldn't help but roll my eyes at that. The rest of the meeting turned into discussions about logistics, returning the wedding gift they had already received, stopping the harassment from her family, cancelling the honeymoon, and changing the locks. Ex kept crying and attempting to talk to Sam, but he was strictly in business mode and didn't want anything from her. He only responded directly when she mentioned keeping her engagement ring, even though no one asked for it. They left without any issues. When the delivery of alcohol arrived, my mom and her husband sneaked through the gate as we opened it. She claimed she just wanted to talk to her, babe, which made my dad ask her to leave again. She erupted, screaming that we had been raised wrong and that we embarrassed her with our behavior. She couldn't believe we were such awful people and insisted we should start making amends, blaming us for her clear lack of maternal love. She got that part right, and it was a pathetic outcome. At that moment, Joe walked out and told her to leave because the police were on their way. She took this chance to cry, saying it was the first time in almost a decade that he had talked to her. She tried to charm him into going out for dinner with her and her husband, but Joe firmly told her to leave. The only news Joe ever wanted to hear about her was related to her funeral. He wanted to go there to celebrate, almost like a twisted party. He envisioned a scene where Q was just losing it, crying and screaming, especially her husband demanding an apology and threatening to hit Joe. It was chaotic, and Joe just turned around and went back inside the house, leaving all that drama outside until it was finally quiet enough to see them leave. They shut the gate behind them, and that moment held a lot of weight for us. People often struggle to understand our reactions, but the things I've written about our mother are really just scratching the surface. Dad didn't feel great about Joe's comments, but he got it. Joe was letting out feelings that we all shared deep down. Maybe that makes us look bad, but honestly, we don't ever want to cross paths with that woman again. We're planning to go through family therapy sessions in addition to our individual ones. Sam, on the other hand, doesn't want the house anymore, but Dad is saying we should take it easy. He believes the first step is to heal emotionally. To cope, we've started having horror movie marathons mixed with some classic Disney films just to lighten the mood. We even created a sort of drama bingo game where we try to guess all the crazy stuff that could happen. I guess we're just really dramatic like that. We do love each other and we were raised to treat people kindly, but when we're pushed, we can get a bit petty. I personally feel a sense of satisfaction knowing she embarrassed herself, and while I wouldn't wish to be abandoned at the church on anyone, I'd do it all over again because my love for my brother outweighs any sympathy I might have for her. We have plans for a family trip somewhere down the line, but for now, we're just going to stay focused on the person who called Joe a hero. His siblings truly couldn't ask for a better brother and friend. We appreciate all the messages and comments we've received so far. It's good to have a space to vent and share. Also, a little side note about our names. Joe and Sam are fake names, but I'll say this to Daniela, go take a hike. My brothers are reading all your messages, and they want you to know how lucky they feel. They appreciate the positivity and want to share that things do get better for those dealing with similar situations. You're all welcome to join our little circle, or as I jokingly call it, our cult. Now for a couple of quick clarifications. If you want to send me a private message, that's fine, even if it's to insult us. Just know I'll only respond publicly. To the person who wrote me a long essay about Joe being parentified, here's the deal. Joe spent time with me because it was his choice. We had our special days together that we all enjoyed. They did their own activities, had friends, and took trips, both with me and alone. They weren't forced to take care of me, they had a lot of freedom. Our parents divorced when I was 3, and although we had shared custody, we stayed with Dad most of the time. We rarely visited our mother unless we were at least in pairs, and any time Joe or Sam spent with her after they turned 18 was only because they didn't want me to go alone. Therapy has been part of our lives for a long time, and we've just had extra sessions because of our recent encounter with her. Joe was the only one who really confronted our mother during that time. There was a reason my dad didn't go to the church with Joe. Sam asked him to go home. It was just too much for all of us to process, and Dad didn't need to see her again, even if they would eventually talk. Sam is heartbroken. He really thought he would spend his life with Daniela and that she was a good person. Now he's dealing with a flood of emotions, but growing up, we learned to keep our feelings in check around people we didn't trust or care for. It was a survival skill we developed based on how we were treated in the past. Joe did have a relationship with Grandma, but that ended when she invited our mother as her +1. There wasn't even a religious ceremony. The venue had security and a list of people who could get in. Joe sent Grandma a letter saying he wouldn't talk to her again, and we chose not to attend her funeral either. It was a lot to handle, and we were just trying to put the pieces together. The wedding was planned to have around 250 guests, which made organizing the guest list and seating arrangements quite a task. During this process, the planner used different names, which is why many of us were caught off guard when certain people showed up. It's worth noting that Daniela is not Brazilian, and my dad wanted to make it clear that his kids do not have a drinking problem. He is concerned that people might think otherwise, even if it's said anonymously. This week has been incredibly chaotic. Those who warned us about the pregnancy tactic were spot on. Daniela shared a post online claiming she was pregnant, which caused a frenzy. People started reaching out to Sam, asking if it was true. Sam, understandably worried, called her and asked her to take the post down. Despite his request, she insisted she was pregnant. Eventually, she deleted the post and agreed to meet with Sam, but during their conversation, she somehow got the idea that he wanted to get back together. I tagged along with Sam, hoping to keep the situation under control. Daniela initially seemed happy to see him until she noticed me walking in. That changed everything. She began crying and clutching her stomach, claiming that she was pregnant. When Sam asked her if it was true, she responded affirmatively, expressing her fear that her child might come from a broken family. This set off another wave of emotion as Sam suggested they go to the doctor to confirm the pregnancy. Daniela's reaction was extreme. She sobbed, yelling that he didn't trust her. To sum it up, it turned out she wasn't pregnant at all. However, she went on to post that Sam was forcing her to have an abortion, claiming she felt devastated by it. Understandably, this accusation stirred up quite a storm, with friends and family reaching out to Sam, confused by all the drama and unsure of what to believe. When my sister Anna caught wind of Daniela's posts, she immediately called her. I don't know what they discussed, but I've never seen Anna this furious before. Although Daniela took her posts down, Anna sent out an email to everyone on the wedding list, detailing the situation and clarifying that Daniela was never pregnant. This morning, we heard that Daniela had a breakdown. She left voicemail messages for Sam saying that if she couldn't be with him, she wanted to die. This behavior follows a familiar pattern from our mother, and in response, Sam called the police to report what was happening. Daniela's family then intervened, forcing her into therapy and placing her under observation. This turn of events is distressing, but we've decided not to get involved any further. We are also in the process of changing our phone numbers to distance ourselves from the chaos. Our mother recently sent an email to Anna, threatening to sue her for defamation over the email she sent out, but we're not worried about this at all. Anna's parents have been incredibly supportive and agree wholeheartedly with the way she managed the situation. Even though Joe, Anna's fiancé, was initially furious, Anna managed to convince him to let it go and move forward without dwelling on it. Our mother's husband continues to be the same old pain as ever. Meanwhile, Dad is considering a restraining order, but he knows they are usually not effective in our country. Despite all this turmoil, we had a fun get-together at home yesterday. Everyone enjoyed karaoke, dancing, good food, drinks, games, and even a bouncy house, because why not? Most of the guests sidestepped any discussions about the wedding or the drama surrounding it, although a few people did address it in a careful manner. Dad had already given away much of the alcohol planned for the wedding to his employees, allowing them to choose what they wanted to take home. He's also planning to include some bottles in his Christmas gift baskets this year. Looking ahead, we plan to spend the holidays together and do some traveling. I mentioned to Sam about wanting to paint the house, but he's not interested in living there anymore. He plans to rent it out. I jokingly said I might just elope or skip having a big wedding to avoid any more drama, but Joe firmly told me that if I choose to have a wedding, I better throw the biggest party ever. So yes, he's still the best. I appreciate all the kind comments and messages, but I'm not acknowledging the mean ones. As for the awards and interest, Thanks to the supportive folks out there, it really means a lot. And just so you know, I'm keeping you updated about the craziness in our family. Some people have pointed out that I seem to lack a feminine influence in my life, but I have my grandma for that. I have my grandma, aunts, and other family members in my life, but my dad's girlfriend, Rita, doesn't really fill that mother figure role for me. I don't feel bad about it, though. When I first got my period and shared the news with my dad, he was super prepared. He even talked to my brothers about it, and they each had their own way of handling the situation, even though the others didn't know what they were planning. So, it turned out that I had 3 men wanting to help me out, and they even did a little presentation on the whole topic. It might seem awkward for me, but honestly, it was probably even more awkward for them. It's actually a funny story and shows just how much they care about me. Rita is great, and we all love her, but she's totally fine not being married to my dad. He doesn't want to tie the knot again, and if he changed his mind, we'd be supportive of that. As for Daniela, she's doing okay. Her sisters tried to stir up drama, calling us terrible people, but after Anna sent out an email, nobody is buying into their story anymore. One of her sisters even got dumped by her boyfriend because he didn't want to be part of a toxic family. I won't be sharing where we live or what my dad does for work, so please don't ask. We've changed our phone numbers and social media accounts, and we're planning to move soon. I keep a little note with fake names and relationships to help me keep track when I'm writing my posts, and I usually type everything up in Word. It helps me stay organized and not make a mess of my thoughts. Oh, and my dad wants everyone to know that your applications to the cult have all been accepted, just a fun joke. I checked our last update and can't believe it was just early November. I have mostly good news to share. Sam is doing really well. He's taken some time off work, and his boss is super understanding about it. Sam is still living with my dad and is fine financially, so he's not worried. He started running and even decided he wants to run a marathon next year. He's becoming more like his goofy self again, and he and Dad are having a blast doing renovations at home. They are painting rooms and doing some creative murals, and it's seriously hilarious. Daniela wrote Sam a letter, but he decided to send it back. The house is now on the market as a rental, and he's okay with that. On another note, I'm engaged. It turns out this has been in the works for months. When I joked about eloping, my future husband, Matt, completely freaked out. I found out that he had discussed his plans with Sam, who already knew because he didn't want to make Sam uncomfortable. But Sam said it would actually be more uncomfortable for him if Matt didn't share the plans. Matt also talked to Joe and my dad. When Matt asked for my dad's blessing to marry me, my dad made him sweat a bit, saying it wasn't his to give, but everyone claims it was all in good fun. This happened earlier this month, and I'm really excited. My dad is even more excited and wants to walk me down the aisle, even if it's just a civil wedding. While my news is amazing, there's even bigger news happening around us. Joe and Anna have been on the adoption list for a while now, and just a couple of weeks ago, they got a baby girl named H. She is the sweetest, most beautiful baby ever. The adoption is now final, which is typical for newborns in our country. We had a feeling they wanted to adopt, so when they shared the news about officially becoming parents, there were a lot of happy tears. Dad is in full grandpa mode, and despite the rough patches we've had this year, this is the best thing that's happened to our family. Now, about their mom, she found out about the baby and demanded to meet her, but we had to serve her a sort of protective order to keep her away. We don't want her laying eyes on our little girl if we can help it. That's some of the bad news, but we've decided to stay at home with the new baby and won't be traveling anytime soon. Of course, we had a small gathering for Christmas and to welcome the baby, which Joe and Anna didn't attend since she's too young, but they joined us via Zoom. We all agreed to get Sam some goofy gifts like t-shirts, mugs, and sweatshirts featuring Julia Roberts, since he's kind of the runaway bride of the family. The reason Joe and I are thinking about moving is simply because we're currently living in flats and want to change. We want to live in homes that make us feel safe, even though we've gone through some tough stuff. We know we're still a bit shaken up, and there's work to be done, but we also recognize how lucky we are. We want to focus on the good things in our lives because the negative stuff is really just a small part of it all. No matter what challenges come our way, I will always be thankful for my family. This is likely my last update for everyone. I know that the previous updates haven't included much drama, and they may not seem very exciting, but that's exactly the goal, staying calm. I don't plan to delete any of my past posts. This account will stay active in case something significant comes up that is worth sharing. I genuinely wish everyone a fantastic end of the year and an amazing start to 2022. Now let's catch up on the details. I guess we should update those who are still interested in what's happening with our group. First, due to popular demand, yes, we do speak Spanish as our native language. In our country, adoptions are finalized by the government, and open adoptions are quite rare. Joe and Anna have been waiting to start their family together since they decided that was their path. We've walked together through this, almost like when they announced something big on the news. Exciting, right? We're now 35, 33, and 29. When I mentioned HB, I meant husband, but honestly, I also love how huge bastard fits in just as well. As for Joe and I, we moved as planned last year. Overall, 2021 has treated us well, with just a bit of minor drama around Danielle, more on that later. Now, let's get to the not-so-great news. Out of nowhere, Danielle has returned with surprising news. She claims to be pregnant and insists that Sam is the father. Unfortunately for her, it is completely impossible for him to be the dad since he wasn't even in the country when the baby would have been conceived, but she didn't know that. Sam has offered numerous times to take a paternity test, but she refuses. Legally, Sam is in a good position, but he can't help but feel sympathy for her baby. Danielle's father did sue Sam for emotional distress because of his daughter's issues, but nothing serious came from that. Surprise, surprise, Joe is a lawyer, which is relevant information for this situation, I promise. Sam has chosen not to pursue any legal action against Danielle's dad since he has way too much on his plate and feels pity for the family. Danielle's mom, however, still insists on meeting the baby, which is a conversation that will never happen. In classic Danielle fashion, she dusted off one of her favorite tricks, claiming she has cancer. She reached out to Joe and Anna through their work emails, desperately asking for help to meet the baby, saying she is incredibly sick and might need a transplant. This is like the 5th time she's claimed to have cancer, but in reality, she has never had it. It seems she craves the attention, the sympathy, the drama, everything that comes from causing a scene. We've never believed her, of course, but we were shocked when she reached out to Anna's mom on Facebook. Anna's mom is a kind, good-hearted Catholic woman, so Danielle must have thought she could manipulate her easily. She spun her cancer story and lamented how heartbroken she was not to meet the baby. Anna's mom, being the smart lady she is, asked a few questions about the diagnosis and treatment, which revealed the far-fetched nature of Danielle's claims. After some back and forth, she blocked Danielle and posted the whole exchange online. It felt like high school drama, but with adults, and the comebacks were ridiculously entertaining. On a happier note, the baby is healthy and thriving. The only small controversy surrounding her is what to call her. Danielle insists that she has no right to be called grandma, but Joe and Anna talked it over with Rita and all agreed that, for all intents and purposes, she will be Grandma Rita, and Danielle can't do anything to change that. As for Sam, he's doing really well. He decided to quit his job and start something new on his own. He still lives in the family home while renting out the other house, and he's starting to see someone new. She's very nice, knows about all the drama, and makes amazing cakes. We all like her, so we're cautiously optimistic. They're taking their time, but it's heartwarming to see Sam with someone like her. He's also been keeping busy painting rooms with Dad, and the results have been fantastic. The recent events in my life have been a mix of surprising news and heartfelt moments. First off, I want to share how much I love these two people who bring so much laughter into my life, even if their antics sometimes feel silly, almost like something you'd see in a kindergarten class. It all began when my dad caught COVID for the first time. He got really scared and decided it was time to update his will. This situation made me realize just how important Joe's job is in keeping our family informed. When my parents finished updating everything, they made it clear to Sam and me how they wanted things divided. Everything Dad owns is split into 4 equal parts, 2 parts for his kids, and the remaining quarter for any grandkids. However, the family house is a special case, it's not meant to be divided. Instead, it will be transferred to my name very soon. At first, I felt a bit confused about all of this, but after talking to Joe and Dad, I learned they really wanted me to have the house, provided Sam agreed to it as well. Thankfully, Sam is on board and is actually quite excited about the whole arrangement. There weren't many details given beyond that it felt like the right choice, but I can't shake the feeling that my status as the youngest might have played a part in their decision. On another note, Joe recently bought a house in the same neighborhood as our family home. Even though they aren't right next to each other, they are close enough to keep that family vibe alive. Matt and I have decided not to buy a new place since I'll be getting the family home soon. Moving into the family house has been a unique experience. It's been interesting but also quite nice. Dad is starting to embrace semi-retirement, spending more days at Rita's place, and this arrangement seems to work well for everyone. Sam will have the freedom to stay there for as long as he wishes, although his murals might have to go, there's always a bit of humor in that. We're still engaged and still happily enjoying our days together. Although we're not expecting a baby yet, we did adopt a cat this spring, which has added a fun twist to our lives. We have a wedding planned for December, and it feels like such a wonderful way to wrap up the year. Now, as for the drama in our lives, it's not really drama, at least not the major kind. We're continuing to heal and move forward, which is how we like it. I want to explain why I'm posting this now. One of us is a huge fan of the best of Reddit updates, and we were reminded about sharing our story. The last few months of 2023 have been busy but filled with good vibes. Greetings from the family. Sam has recently moved in with his girlfriend, and it makes us all so happy to see him thriving again. Dad has also semi-moved in with Rita. It has been a bittersweet experience, but we're all making the best of it and supporting one another through changes. Now for some not so great news. There was indeed cancer in our mother's side of the family, but luckily not in her case. Sadly, one of her stepchildren was diagnosed and passed away earlier this year. It's been disheartening to watch her make a big deal out of it for sympathy, and we're all pretty disgusted by her behavior, as usual. While we can empathize with what the other family member is going through, we remain committed to staying no contact with her and her entire family. On a lighter note, Daniela recently had a baby, a very cute boy. However, just to clarify, this child is not Sam's. There was never any doubt on our part, but Daniela tried to create the connection by making Sam recognize the baby and sign documents. He refused, and after the paternity test, there was nothing else she could do. She was crushed when she heard Sam was in a serious relationship, especially once he moved in with his girlfriend. She still clings to the notion that Sam is meant to be with her and has even tried to bully his girlfriend online. Thankfully, his girlfriend is incredibly strong and has handled it all with grace. To add to the family updates, Sam is still in therapy and we're all making progress on that front. His girlfriend has become a beloved member of our family, understanding everything we've been through and integrating perfectly with us. Sam has also had some personal victories. He completed his first marathon recently. It wasn't perfectly timed, but he accomplished it, which is a big deal. Joe and his girlfriend are also very happy. They remain interested in adopting another child and are hoping to add to their family. In my country, the adoption process is quite different from what you might find in the US. There are no agencies involved. Instead, you get on a list after going through various tests and interviews. When a match happens, the baby becomes yours right away. I know I sound a bit vague, but each country has its own rules regarding adoption. Overall, our family dynamic is evolving, and amidst all the changes, we are finding joy. That baby of Joe's is just the sweetest, and yes, I admit I might be a little biased. But it's agreed upon by everyone that she should be spoiled a bit. We all agree that it's important not to spoil her too much. She has her own room at our house, and she also has a playpen at Sam's place. They are still looking for a permanent home since they work from home. Dad is basically living with Rita, and she seems really happy about that. They have even gone on a couple of trips together recently. It's clear they love being grandparents, and they are very hands-on with the kids. Now, they like to say they have 3 grandbabies because the cats visit them too, which is really funny. At first, Dad wasn't too thrilled about having cats around, but now he's all in. He takes photos of all his babies and prints out the best ones because that's just what he's used to doing. He even gives updates to his friends on what the kids are up to, and sometimes they get confused, not knowing if he's talking about the cats or the actual babies because he gets so excited about everything they do. In my opinion, he buys them way too many toys, but I guess that's just what grandpas do. We got married in December, and it was a special day. Dad walked me down the aisle, which meant a lot, even though we did a lot of non-traditional stuff that isn't typical in my country. Joe was Matt's best man, and Sam insisted on being called Julio throughout the whole wedding planning process, which was quirky and fun. Mom tried to get involved and convinced Anna's mom to come too, but she didn't share any details about the plans. Some of Mom's relatives thought it was undignified to have Rita there instead of my own mother. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I personally think it's awful to support her actions. But everyone has their own opinion, and that's just life. The wedding itself was a blast. It wasn't stressful at all, nobody ran away, there were no tears of sadness, and nobody made a scene. We're also remodeling part of the house to make it feel more like ours. We don't want to keep everything in my childhood bedroom anymore. So far, everything is going really well. Sam did get a little bit fewer Julia Roberts gifts this time around, but he wears his t-shirts with pride all year long. On a last note, Sam's girlfriend approached us with the idea of proposing to him when the time feels right. Who knows? Maybe this time, he will actually make it to the altar.